We as an audience tend to take everything for granted. We forget that everything presented to us has been constructed by the media in a specific way to convey the message that what is presented is truth. To the media, truth is just a stylistic quality. I'm afraid that what we witness every day is simply the art of deception.
The next 27 minutes are an experiment. But in order for it to work, you have to pay attention.
White Wilderness was a nature series produced by Disney in 1958. What they did as a series at the time was amazing. Right up until they found out the truth about this particular episode.
It's a story both true and false, as we shall see in a moment.
You've heard of the old saying, like lemmings going over a cliff. Most people seem to think that when one lemming goes over a cliff, all the rest will follow. That's ludicrous.
It would appear that lemmings are a lot like sheep. That one or two start to go somewhere, and the rest are determined to go too.
Most people don't even know what a lemming is.
They reach the final precipice. This is the last chance to turn back.
But do hordes of lemmings really throw themselves off a cliff to drown in the sea? Or is this the greatest man-made myth ever?
The mass suicide of lemmings was a lie. The filmmakers at the time wanted to turn myth into reality. So what they did is they pushed and they threw the animals off the cliff. All they really wanted to be was the best entertainment company at the time.
It was a pretty simple idea. Bring the legend to life, make the audience fall in love with the lemming, and then bring them to a tragic and unbelievable ending.
The emotional connection is very important in engaging an audience. It in itself is a beautiful thing. However, in this case, it served as nothing more than a mere tool in Disney's journey to #1. Fast forward to the future and we find that nothing has changed. If anything, things have got worse. Just as White Wilderness had a double irony, so too did the opening video to the 2009 Copenhagen Climate Convention.
And few still doubt the impact of human influence over this predicted catastrophe.
It's understandable how a child can be gullible, but for an adult, it's, perhaps society hasn't taught them how to question what they see.
I remember watching it and thinking, who'd buy into this? Next day, instead of laughing, I was hit with a depressing realisation that the whole country was buying into it.
Was the message really, we will brainwash your children into action? I mean, the message is blatantly clear. We will frighten your children so much they will fear the rain.
The tragedy is that children from a very early age are warned, through stories and tales, that they should not believe everything that they hear.
Oh dear! A piece of blue sky just fell on my head. The wherefore and why is best left unsaid. But I have a hunch, and it's appalling that, like it or not, the sky is falling.
If climate change is a real issue, why do they need to scare people into belief?
The current ideology in climate science can be summed up pretty easily. It all stems to the UN and the IPCC.
IPCC stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Is the IPCC really made up of 4,000 top scientists? Well, I'm afraid it's not. I found out that some of the people writing this report are actually graduate students in their 20s. Some of them 10 years away from even getting their PhDs.
IPCC has been under intense pressure since admitting its landmark study into climate change exaggerated the speed of glacier melt.
When the IPCC funds projects, so they issue a brief or project outline. And this project outline stipulates precisely that they must find a reason how the humans are creating or causing global warming. They do not pay to find a natural reason.
And we're left with people thinking that human beings are the biggest problem this planet has to face.
What is the most serious threat facing humanity today?
Human existence.
Wow. Then once people feel badly about their own existence, they will give up their rights much more easily.
Sometimes I wish we didn't exist.
There is PDO, cloud cover, but you cannot tax the clouds. It's a bit like being funded to research how cigarettes cause cancer. Of course, we all know cigarettes do cause cancer, but it's not the only reason. If you want to be a real scientist, you must explore all possibilities.
All scientific prognoses show that the continent of Africa will be severely hit if we do not act now.
The film doesn't present a shred of evidence. There'd be a million other ways to educate people rather than scare them. If someone or something is trying to make a scientific argument without referring to science, they aren't telling the whole truth.
There's a film that uses fear and evidence to deceive the audience. It's a lesson in how images presented with false information can fool an audience. This film's biggest weapon was a mere PowerPoint presentation.
Separating the truth from the fiction and the accurate connections from the misunderstandings is part of what you learn here.
I'm Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America. I don't find that...
Notice how Al Gore chose to have a live audience in this dimly lit room. The audience guides the audience at home. Sort of like canned laughter in a sitcom when the audience at home doesn't get the joke.
I don't find that particularly funny.
Gore tries really hard in this film to be someone we can relate with. He's depicted as a lonely guy with a laptop trying to save the world.
I've been trying to tell this story for a long time, and I feel as if I've failed to get the message across.
In reality, Gore was raised in the White House by a Communist Party leader. He didn't put this in his film for obvious reasons. The truth won't sell his product.
It's interesting how Al Gore makes himself believable. His film follows two parallel stories. The presentation is one, and Al's personal story is the other.
How should I spend my time on this earth?
See, what he's doing is subconsciously telling the audience that the issue should be personal to them as well.
Each one of us is a cause of global warming, but each of us can make choices to change that.
A lot of people believe that Al Gore started the climate movement, but the truth is this movement was started decades ago by Vladimir Lenin. Lenin was a Russian communist revolutionary and the first head of the new Soviet state. The 100th anniversary of Lenin's birth was actually the very first Earth Day.
Now, they have invested about $1 billion in 40 companies that are going to benefit from cap and trade legislation. So is the legislation that we are discussing here today, is that something that you are going to personally benefit from?
If you believe that the reason I have been working on this issue for 30 years.
In the past year, Gore's home has burned through 213,000 kilowatt hours of electricity.
Is because of greed.
He and his companies will make a fortune.
You don't know me.
Which is said to be enough to power 232 average American households for a full month.
Yes, people will believe Al Gore's movie. Yet, I think they fail to take into consideration the scientific evidence.
There is a consensus on the science.
Well, you mustn't have been listening to our testimony that we've had for the last few days with dozens of experts that have come in who have given completely different views.
I'd love to have a debate with him, but they say, oh no, the debate is over.
Will he debate you? He won't.
There are people who still believe that the moon landing was staged on a movie lot in Arizona.
And neither of us are one of those, and I know you like giving those cute anecdotes. This is not a cutesy issue.
That what we take for granted might not be here for our children.
What hurts me the most as a professional is that kids are not taught properly in school.
When some of these children who are here are my age, here's what it's going to be in less than 50 years.
They are taught that humans is the only reason for global warming, so they are groomed from the beginning.
Again, I go back to Lenin as the first building block. Now he said, "Give me 4 years to teach the children and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted."
Consumerism is the need to have more and doing anything to get it. It is at the core of climate change.
I also came up with an idea to alert my city, Ventura, about the dangers of sea level rise and how it will affect us.
I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it.
Can't you see what's going on around you? I mean, it's been raining like crazy.
This, incidentally, is the first time anybody outside of a small group of scientists has seen this image.
I was surprised about all the new graph he presented. I was sitting in the audience, and I have to say, he almost had me.
I mean, the graph shows no real data. It even goes back in time.
But one thing that really gets me is when the media or the politicians, they claim that such a year was the highest on records.
Now, as I said, they can also measure temperature.
Firstly, we haven't had the technology to measure global temperature for around 2002. It was NASA who launched the Aqua satellite. And secondly, the IPCC scientists, we want to get rid of the medieval warm period.
The existence of the medieval warm period had been recognized in the scientific literature for decades, but now it was a major embarrassment to those maintaining that the 20th century warming was truly anomalous.
Because there was no carbon pollution during the medieval time. So they want us to believe that now is the hottest time of the recent history and that human is responsible for the global warming.
The science is in, the science is clear. Our planet is warming. That warming is caused by carbon pollution, by human activity, and we need to cut carbon pollution.
Normally in science, when you have a novel result that appears to overturn previous work, you have to demonstrate why the earlier work was wrong. But the work was initially accepted uncritically, even though it contradicted the results of more than 100 previous studies.
You've heard of off the charts.
In a book, you have an appendix and a reference with all the information you need to validate the source. But in documentary, you don't have this. So the filmmaker can go away by doing whatever they want, no question asked.
In the end, truth alone is worthy of our entire devotion, and the global warming scare fundamentally is not true.
Every piece of data presented on the screen is done so in a particular way so that you believe in its validity. Politics aside, we must now take a close look at how religion is presented on the screen. Presenting Zeitgeist.
Now, this movie is specifically designed to brainwash you. Notice how the pulsating progressive music draws you in.
This is the sun. As far back as 10,000 BC, history is abundant with carvings and writings reflecting people's respect and adoration for this object.
when they want you to believe or remember something, they add subliminal static flashes or shapes that flash on the screen.
Controlling the whole damn world.
Not only does this keep you paying attention, but it gives you the sense that someone has just changed the channel, and supposedly on this new channel, they're saying the same thing.
It's quite ironical. Very funny indeed.
The flashing on the screen definitely affects the audience in ways they don't even realise. Most people think it's just stylistic qualities of the film, but in reality, it's subliminal messaging.
But we want to be academically correct in what we understand and know to be true. Christianity just is not.
In every documentary that you see, there's only over a 2-line credential right at the bottom. I mean, who are these people?
The reality is, Jesus was the solar deity of the Gnostic Christian sect.
There are several types of documentaries out there. Now it is my job to assess these documentaries based on their factual evidence. In my 20 minutes of research after watching Zeitgeist.
Horus was born on December 25th.
Horus was supposedly born the month of Koyak, October, November.
Horus was born on December 25th of the Virgin Isis Mary.
According to the myth, Isis was not a virgin.
His birth was accompanied by a star in the east, and upon his birth he was adored by 3 kings.
There is no star or 3 kings who come to visit Horus in any of the myths.
At the age of 12, he was a prodigal child teacher.
There is nothing in the myths about Horus becoming a teacher at age 12, nor in fact did Jesus.
At the age of 30, he was baptized by a figure known as Anup, and thus began his ministry.
Horus was not baptized.
Horus had 12 disciples he traveled about with, performing miracles such as healing the sick and walking on water.
Neither are there any statements to the effect that Horus had 12 disciples. According to the accounts, he had 4 semi-gods that were followers and some indications of 16 human followers, and an unknown number of blacksmiths that went into battle with him.
The fact of the matter is, there are numerous saviors from different periods from all over the world which subscribe to these general characteristics.
Visually it looks good, but in reality it's just a list of lies.
Imagine if I was trying to prove Zeitgeist wrong by using the Bible and pointing to the cross-referencing in the margins. It would nowhere near be as powerful and therefore not be taken as truth.
There are very high odds that the figure known as Jesus did not even exist.
So far we've examined white wilderness, An Inconvenient Truth, and Zeitgeist. And we've seen how personalising a story using elaborate lists and documents and associations can persuade and deceive the audience. Now it's time to find these things in the most deceptive documentary propaganda film of recent times.
For 26 years, Kony has been kidnapping children into his rebel group, the LRA.
Let's be realistic here. People creating child soldiers in Africa is nothing new. We all know about it. There's no way the US would invade such an insignificant country if they weren't getting something out of it. The thing that ties Afghanistan, Iraq and Uganda is the large amounts of oil that these lands contain.
You heard about Kony 2012. That itself was months after Obama began his rather covert invasion of Africa to legitimize the AFRICOM mission to seize oil and other assets.
To also recognize that, Uganda has just recently announced the striking of some very substantial oil resources.
President Obama is giving a gift to the dictator of Uganda, Museveni, who's been in power for 25 to 26 years. And he's as responsible of human rights infringements and, in fact, attacks on civilians and murderous attacks on civilians as Joseph Kony. So Obama is sending these 100 U.S. Special Forces billed as advisors. So remember Vietnam in 1961-62. It started with a bunch of advisors going to Vietnam, and we know what history taught us later.
When Hitler wanted to become dictator of Nazi Germany, he organized for his own parliament to be burnt to the ground. The terror he created, the power he created was phenomenal.
Any nation needs to create a great deal of fear or have a well-known villain to wage war on another.
They create a monster and then have the public demand action. I think that's the greatest way the government can create change.
I stand by those words. Afghanistan is still just the beginning.
Instead of using fear as they did with the war on terror, the Kony 2012 video uses compassion. Compassion for the helpless African children who have to face the fear of Kony every single day.
See, they created the Kony villain so easily because they knew their audience. Adolescent teens who want to make a difference with money to spare.
They gave a few dollars a month of what little they had to a program called Try, and proved that a bunch of littles could make a big difference.
The movie makes out that the older generation has no idea how to use the internet.
I want to take a picture.
And older generations are concerned.
Many people are very concerned about tomorrow.
They could get worse next year.
Further, we have the emotional connection with the filmmaker's son.
I'm gonna be like you, Dad.
When you grow up?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm gonna come with you to Africa.
You know, we should all want to be like this guy. You know, go out into other countries and catch the bad guys.
Who are the bad guys? Show this movie to as many people as possible in such a way that we can't be ignored.
The interesting way that Kony 2012 engages the audience is through trends. The filmmakers made it so cool to be helping.
And they constantly pounded their audience with the obligation to click share.
So now technically your device is on. Can you tell? Oh, that's exciting!
If the cool kids say it's cool, everyone else will follow.
750 million people share ideas, not thinking in borders. It's a global community bigger than US.
It's still just a matter of people not wanting to be left out. So they press share, share, share.
We've come to the end of the free seminar, where we lock the doors and ask you to buy something. After all, that's what it's all about, making money.
Well, it's really cheap in my opinion. It's like watching a feature-length sales pitch.
The frustrating thing is that it works. If 1 in every 30 children convince their parents to buy the action pack, then Kony 2012 would have made millions.
Take a program like A Current Affair or 60 Minutes. 99% of the time, they don't ask for donations. It's just that handful of times that, it's reasonable.
This question comes down to this. Are we, as Americans, capable of doing great things even though they are difficult? Are we capable of rising above ourselves and above history?
They ask directly for the audience to do something. It's all about control. It is, after all, a sales pitch, a call to action.
Act now. It is your time to seize this issue. It is our time to rise again to secure our future.
Please help the world. Please help save the world.
You wonder how these experts fool the audience. Just take a look. Look how dramatic it is. The innocent face of the filmmaker's son. Notice how every dramatic scene will be enhanced with a black screen and either a pulsing sound or the original audio continuing. Yeah, this is film at its best, but it is not truth. You know, the use of pulsating music that relaxes the mind coupled with a voiceover and a clever imagery does not constitute as truth. There is none. It's all a show. You know, it's just entertainment. It's not truth.
The next 27 minutes are an experiment. But in order for it to work, you have to pay attention.
In a book, you have an appendix and a reference with all the information you need to validate a source. But in a documentary, you don't have this. But in a documentary, you don't have this. This basically means that the filmmaker can get away with saying whatever they want, no question asked. This basically means that the filmmaker can get away with saying whatever they want, no question asked.
We as an audience tend to take everything for granted.
Like lemmings going over a cliff.
I mean, who are these people?
Hi, my name's Nat Landy. I'm a model and an actor.
Someone has just changed the channel. When they want you to believe or remember something, they add subliminal static flashes or shapes that flash on the screen.
When Hitler wanted to become dictator of Nazi Germany, he organised for his own parliament to be burnt to the ground.
Burning down his own German parliament building, the Reichstag, and blamed it on communist terrorists.
The whole country was buying into it.
The mostly peaceful demonstrations in Copenhagen.
We will frighten your children so much they will fear the rain.
Horace was supposedly born the month of Koyak, October, November.
But the truth is,
it's not truth.
But the truth.
They should not believe everything that they hear.
Next time you watch something, don't use your eyes, use your head. Watch with a critical mind. Watch out for the art of deception.